Welcome to Sociology Vibes, where we simplify challenging ideas into easy to understand insights. Today, our focus is on the sociological explanation of the conflict theory on education. Conflict theory is a macro-analysis theory of how society works. An easy way of understanding this theory is to see it from the lens of social inequality. Conflict sociologists believe that education institution reproduces societal inequalities because the education system is organized to benefit only some categories of people, specifically reflective of socioeconomic or social class status, race and ethnicity, and even sex and gender. Let's examine some of these societal inequalities further. Cultural and social capital. Family background is a factor in student success in school. Cultural capital refers to the advantages passed to children by their families. Upper-class families provide children cultural capital that allows them to excel in school, perform well on high-stakes tests, standardized assessments, including the SAT university entrance exams, and even IQ or intelligence tests, computers and internet in the home, travel during vacation, participation in extracurricular activities that require financial investments, visits to museums, theaters, art galleries are just some of the ways that children are exposed to high culture that provide them with academic advantages. Social capital refers to the advantages higher income families provide for their children by exposing them to social networks within their circle of contacts to provide education, employment, and economic and social opportunities. The hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is the transmission of dominant cultural values, ideologies, and attitudes found in the policies, rules, and normal routines that happen in schools. It involves implicit and invisible ways that schools teach children that certain social categories or members of certain groups of people are more or less deserving, and ways that students learn to accept cultural values and norms that perpetuate inequalities and the status quo. For example, schools located in lower income neighborhoods might socialize students to be obedient to authority, while in upper income neighborhoods, students learn to be creative and independent thinkers. Tracking. Tracking refers to school policies that select some students into programs like honors and AP classes designed to fast-track their success, while funneling others into less desirable educational and career pathways. These tracks result in very different opportunities and educational outcomes, setting up some children from a very young age for lifelong success. Tracking includes pushing students from lower income backgrounds into lower paid occupations and students from higher income backgrounds into higher education bound occupations. Funding inequalities. Public schools primarily receive funding from state governments and local property taxes. How these funds are distributed varies by each state. However, conflict sociologists argue that schools in lower income neighborhoods fare far worse than upper middle income neighborhoods. Standardized tests. Standardized tests are often required to assess understanding and sometimes required by state and federal governments to measure how well schools are performing. Conflict sociologists argue that students in higher socioeconomic communities have access to more prep resources such as tutoring support. Because test results impact school funding and even reputation, they reinforce social economic advantages and disadvantages. Social inequalities can even be embedded in how questions are asked and what is assessed, favoring some students over others. And this could be cultural knowledge, access to tutors, or even just having a quiet place to study at home. Tests sometimes end up rewarding the students who already fit the system, and not necessarily what they're meant to do, assess understanding of the curriculum. Here's an example. Leah went on a safari with her parents, where she saw 2 zebras and 3 giraffes. How many total animal legs did she see? If a student has not been exposed to these animals, how can they realistically answer these questions, or this question? In summary, conflict sociologists point out the following 3 inequities. The education institution reflects existing societal social divisions. Schools don't give everyone the same chance. In fact, schools often give more resources, support, and opportunities to wealthier students and less to students from lower income backgrounds. Schools in wealthier neighborhoods often have newer buildings, more counselors, up-to-date technology, and more advanced classes. Schools in poorer areas might struggle with overcrowding, less funding, and fewer extracurricular activities. Education and the capitalist economy. Sociologists Samuel Bowles and Herbert Gintis coined the correspondence principle and argued that the organization of schools corresponds to or reflects the organization of the capitalist workplace. Schools don't just teach academic curriculum, they teach students how to behave in ways that fit the needs of a capitalist economy. For example, schools reward obedience, punctuality, and competition, which are the same characteristics expected from workers in a capitalist economic system. The hierarchy in schools, including teachers over students, principals over teachers, reflect the hierarchy in workplaces like managers over workers. Grades and credentials sort students into different positions, reproducing class inequalities rather than reducing them. And education can also reinforce race, gender, and other inequalities. Conflict theory doesn't just look at social class, it looks at race, gender, language, and ability. How are cultural stereotypes perpetuated in schools? Which group's history gets taught in textbooks? Which groups get encouraged into which courses, majors, and careers? Which groups are more likely to be harshly disciplined? These are not just random examples. They reflect the larger social patterns that keep some groups in power over others. According to conflict sociologists, education is not just about effort, it's about access and the perpetuation of societal inequalities, discrimination, and biases. Understanding the conflict theory view on education can help us make sense of some of our personal struggles by seeing them from an institutional lens. Instead of wondering, why didn't I get ahead or succeed like others did? You can ask, what systems were in place that gave some people a head start? Conflict theory helps us realize that our personal experiences in schools and consequently outside of school as adults are shaped by larger social forces, not just personal effort or behaviors. That doesn't mean you're powerless. It just means you can stop blaming yourself. You can also practice social awareness by questioning the ways of doing things taken for granted and discuss these issues in your community. And this makes sociology fascinating, don't you think? Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment below with your thoughts, questions, or any topics you'd like us to explore next. Let's keep the conversation going and our community growing. See you in the next Sociology Vibes video.